finish up our great Lenten lecture series. So first, let's thank Lilia Vershinina, who really worked hard to make this lecture series a success. So Lilia, thank you very much for your hard work. And now we are pleased to have Pyrozhenko give us a talk about getting organized. I realize as Orthodox Christians we are basically against organized religion. Because anything that seems organized seems suspicious to us. Like this was probably some kind of conspiracy, but that's really not the case. As the parish grows, it's important for us to get ourselves organized. And Vadim will tell you a little bit what he does in the world so that we understand why he's giving us this talk. But as I mentioned, he gave a similar talk to our clergy retreat in the fall, and it was very well received, so we asked him to talk here. So thank you, Vadim, for being here, and let's welcome him.
Thank you, Father. Thank you. This is probably the fifth lecture presentation that deals with some aspects of management, because we've had several church managers already here, and so we had Roman presenting on the choir, then we had Lilia presenting on the church school, then we had Brother John, and we had Sister Jana, and we had Subdeacon John. So 5 presentations. That's the 6th one that has to do with management, and most of previous presentations they were more on how management is actually looks like. Mine is going to be more conceptual, but it's much less conceptual than what I presented to that conference. And the reason is that management people, they like to tell people what people need to do, and there were 25 priests, 1 bishop, and 2 deacons there, so I didn't have much freedom to tell them what they need to do, but I hope I can do it today. And my perspective on management, as I said, it's more practical, and I see parish management as an opportunity to increase service in our parish. There are other goals of management, of course, but that's my focus for today. And as I said, we've had 5 parish managers presented already, and if you think that this presentation is only for them and you are off the hook because you are not supervising anyone, you are wrong, because I hope to also get your input on how those opportunities for service can be improved. So the way I understand management, that most people and scholars understand, is that it's not focusing on what needs to be done. So for example, I'm not going to talk about innovations in ecclesiastical governance, or how liturgy should be, done, something like let's make liturgy twice longer, or something that, what else do we need to do as a parish? So let's use that field better. Instead of planting corn and beans, we can say grow mushrooms. So I'm not going to talk about those ideas. So I'll be rather talking about how things work and how they can be improved. So management is mostly about implementation of decisions and achieving goals. And our goals and decisions, they come from many sources, and the most important one is our annual meeting, the parish meeting. Then we have council, so they decide and others implement those decisions. So, and of course, asking the question, well, how things work. And there are different ways to manage. And our favorite one, as Father Gregory said, is ad hoc, informal, unwritten. And we assume that things would somehow work out, and then people would show up and do things. And if they don't, there are things that are important, there are things that are less important. So if children take all the cookies, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
If there is no soup, well, there is filtered water in the kitchen. So, there are other ways, more systematic, scientific ways to manage, and I'm going to touch upon that. We have many people here in the parish who, outside the church, work for highly structured and regulated organizations, such as military and hospitals, and they bring their own experience and a disciplined approach to here. So, and some examples. So, Konstantin is over there. I think he used to work for a hospital. You were a radiologist, if I'm correct, right? So, and radiology, of course, as any other kind of healthcare, should be very responsible. So you should not just assume that things are unimportant, and if you forget to turn off your X machine or whatever, then something bad can happen. So, so Konstantin helped us to improve our management, and he developed an instruction for all brothers on Sunday duty. So I'm sure all the brothers recognize that, not because they read it every time they're on duty, but because it's in the men's restroom. So, and if you look at this instruction, I'm not sure if you can read it. So it's very detailed. So there are parts, activities that need to be done, such as pour oil into lamp, then remove debris from the wicks, then light the oil lamps, and there are some instructions how to do it. So we have equipment there, we have things like bottles to fill those oil lamps, and they should be filled at a certain level. So there are some good ideas here, and there are instructions like that all over the church, and there are at least a dozen of instructions in the altar. So one I picked up today is how to defrost phosphorus. So we freeze phosphorus and then we defrost them. And so this is instruction how to defrost phosphorus. And I'm sure the person who was writing that believed in management, because he said there is only one way to correctly defrost phosphorus. And then the one correct way is described below. Then there are other instructions like what kind of incense we should be using in the sensors. So, and it says that you should not be mixing different kinds of incense. So there are lots of those best practices written in the altar. And I'm sure there are lots of best practices that are not written anywhere. And so, for example, yesterday I was in the kitchen, watching how our sisters work. And that's what management people like to do. They like to watch how people work. So that's what I was doing. And they were cleaning candle stands. And so if you are asked to clean the candle stand, there are different ways to do that. So, and you might assume that, okay, because wax would melt, if you pour water, so you would boil water and you would pour water on those stands, but then it's going to be a disaster, as they told me, because there will be spots on the candle stand. So the one best way is to heat it up with something like hair dryers, or you can put a part of the candle stand into the oven and heat it up there and then clean it. So So that's what you should be doing. But it's unfortunately it's not written anywhere. So if you don't have access to either Leta or Tanya or Lena, then you will be experimenting and you'll be doing things inefficiency. So the next thing is I'm going to discuss is why do we need this systematic management. So first of all, it creates efficiencies and save resources. So you might be doing things that don't need to be done, and then you are wasting resources, but those things that need to be done, you are doing less efficiently and you are spending more resources. Another thing, then if you look at the efficiency, then there are things like social efficiency, and here we are talking about conflicts. So if people are not sure what they are supposed to do, then they will come up with their own ideas, and that creates conflict.
In our church?
No, it's not here. It's just in general, very abstract. Never applies to us. People and conflicts are not too bad, right? Because people have different interests, different ideas, so that's okay. But here, I've seen many situations that because of, well, here in this parish, that because of poor communication or some lack of clarity, then there are some tensions, not really conflicts, but some tensions as well. So the next thing is why we need management is that it helps with training. So when Constantine explains a new brother on duty, what the brother on duty is supposed to do, then he can refer to the instruction that he wrote. And that's much easier than explain everything again and again. So it saves time when training people. So that's going to expand some opportunities for service automatically. Then having something written, it reduces micromanagement. And micromanagement occurs when there is a pressure on our managers here to do things, but there is no clarity what needs to be done. And they want to have all the control, but then they have to do lots of micromanaging, so unfortunately. Then next thing is that systematic management motivates volunteers, because believe me or not, but if the goal is clear, that in itself motivates people. And plus, if everybody knows that the same person doing the same job will be, doing basically the same, then there is, it is fair. So that is maybe not motivating people, but if it's not fair, then it's demotivating people. Then it helps with overall planning, helps focus on bigger goals, and because we are a growing parish, this is really important. It is important to have systematic management. And one idea, I'm not sure if that happened to us or not, is that if you have instructions like this one for various jobs, then you can sort of advertise those activities, volunteer opportunities for others outside the parish, and they can read it and they can decide whether they want to do it or not, and maybe we can attract some outsiders as well. So, I promised that my presentation would be practical, so I come up with some ideas how to do more of systematic management, and I think that there are some opportunities for youth parishioners, for teenagers, those who can read and write and use cell phone and voice recorders, so they can do it. So they can basically go and ask church, our parish managers, about what others are doing, and they can create a thing called job analysis. So it's not the same as job description, what people are supposed to do, but job analysis is rather what people are already doing. And this is a good opportunity for youth parishioners because that's what's going to appear on their resume if they help. So it's management capacity building project at St. Vladimir Russian Orthodox Church. They work as management consultant aides and they're interviewing church volunteer directors and volunteers, develop job analysis, create reports. So good to have that on their resumes. So, and if we do that, then did I miss anything? So, and some areas, activities that can benefit from parish management. I don't think I have a slide for that person. So, things that, jobs that are rotating, such as brothers on duties, they are doing the same thing all over again. So you can, and you already have that instruction, what they need to be doing. And other routine activities, so if you're the only one who is doing certain thing, and you can develop that written job description, analysis, instruction, whatever you call, then you might get some helpers. So instead of doing everything by yourself, others can help you. So in this way we can attract more people and increase opportunities for service. Then there are activities that require effective coordination, such as Russian Festival, because Russian Festival is a two-day event. Everything needs to be well organized, so if people don't know what they need to do, then that's gonna create mess. So volunteers, youth, parishioners can ask those who organize and also participate in the Russian Festival about those different jobs, and they can create job analysis. So written descriptions of what those jobs involve. And if we have enough of those job analysis, then hopefully we can create something like organizational charts. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the concept of organizational chart. So that's basically describe the formal hierarchy in the organization, who reports to whom, so lines of authority, etc. And I think Natalia mentioned that we might need some kind of structure and organizational chart developed in our parish. And I think we need not just one, but maybe 3 organizational charts. Because one is our main organizational charts, so things that we do, we feed people, like what's happening right now, and we teach children, we clean things, so those can be a part of the main organizational chart. Then would be to another special project or organizational chart. So one is new church building organizational chart. It's not the same as main organizational chart, and Russian festival org chart, it's separate. So hopefully having those job analysis and charts, we can have a better idea of what's going on in the parish, and most importantly, those who haven't had a chance to participate actively, they can look where they can participate, where they can help. So so that's how we'll be increasing opportunities for service. And I think I'm done. So thank you very much.
Any questions for Vadim?
Leta, please.
Marina? Oh, go ahead.
What do you think, like, I mean, I get it about how to clean the stand, you know. Anything else would you suggest for sisterhood?
Well,
I'm trying to think of, to create kind of like on duty, like brothers do. It's not that easy.
well, there are many things, and once you start doing, investing your, thinking into what's happening, then maybe you can recognize even more activities. So, for example, organizing the kids, right, during the meal. And you can assign someone to do just that. Or maybe smaller things you can do more efficiently, effectively, I don't know. So you just need to develop a list of activities first, and then for each activity you may need to develop certain instructions.
Maybe you define the task and then entertain like different ways to do it and pick the most efficient, one.
Yeah. So as I
Like
said, well, first you identify tasks and activities, things that need to be done. So, for example, to feed the people, what do you need? You need to put the tables, you need to chairs, and then you need to bring food. But before that, you need to prepare that food. And I'm not doing that, so I don't know. Maybe there are many more activities than I think there are. So, as John said, you identify those activities or tasks, and then for each task you can develop something written. And I'm not saying that everything should be systematic, and ad hoc management works too, but not all the time. So we're just trying to move from that continuum where everything is ad hoc, and it's not, right? Then I think Father said Marina was.
Oh, no, Marina as the treasurer of the
Ah,
sister,
okay.
but just wants to make sure that everyone gets a
Then
chance to give
Ken had
donations.
his hand and Methodius.
Do you have a feeling for what the right level of detail in putting together a plan like this is? Because you can over-specify things and then it becomes ineffective.
I'm not afraid that we'll do too much. So, that's what, well, my idea to use youth parishioners, so they will go and ask Leta, for example, and they have a conversation. And then Leta doesn't have to do that alone, so if several people are working on the same thing on job analysis, then maybe they can write something, and then it's always possible to go back to your instructions. So constantly develop that instruction long ago, I assume, because it's pretty yellowish. So it's important to go back to things that you've been doing, and maybe there is a way to improve those. Methodius, do you have?
Vadim, it seems to me whenever I hear a discussion that involves like a normative standard and then an application of that standard, it always seems to me that the flow must of necessity go from an objective standard, which would be maybe the chart or the diagram or whatever, and then to the like existential aspect of the application of it. And my question is, or what you call ad hoc management, right? Without the standard, ad hoc management can wind you up in places you didn't intend to go. You can end up sort of like in 15 different directions without ever getting what you needed done, which I didn't mention. As I think about the way that we operate in the sanctuary during the divine services, it seems as if we have anomalies in the structure, right? It just seems to me, we're not embarrassed of this. This is just, you have a lot of people back there and a lot of people asking questions, what do we do now? What do we do now? And then they ask the person next to them who gives some kind of an answer, and it may be the right or the wrong answer, or maybe there isn't a right or wrong answer. How do you account for these kind of anomalies, and is there a solution to this sort of thing, or is this just
Well,
part of human history?
it's not really a solution. It's a different approach. So I could have started with organizational chart. So let's start with some clear structure of authority. Who is responsible for what? But I don't really like that idea, because if you are appointed to be somewhere like a middle manager, right? It doesn't mean that you know everything. And there are people who know better than you do. So, and also our idea, our goal is to create more opportunities for service, and I'm sure those can be created. So I like more participatory management. So if we were talking about normative aspects, But if we start doing something more systematic, then hopefully, so one value you said, normative, is efficiency. We can increase efficiency, and that can save resources. And so, and I'm not sure I have answered your question, and your existential parts of management people are not smart, enough to even know those terms. So I'm sorry.
It seems that everything boils down, in what we do, it seems like almost everything boils down to middle management. And that's a shared responsibility.
Yeah, I know. I like that. So shared responsibility. That's our goal. But at the same time,
Is it?
it should not be too chaotic and ad hoc. So.
Is it our goal? Do we
Yes,
agree
yes.
on that? Does everyone agree on that?
Well, it's again an issue of balance. What kind of balance do we need? We don't want Father Gregory to do all the work because he's the priest, right?
He's awesome.
And we don't want, Lilia to do all the teaching. So we want to have some shared responsibility and shared work. So, and I think if we focus on small tasks that need to be accomplished, then probably it would get us somewhere.
The best example of this delegating tasks to others was in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, where the apostles went around preaching, and it got so, they had so many believers come to them that finally they had to appoint deacons to attend to some of the needs, like, for instance, waiting on the tables and things like that. So,
Are you suggesting we need more deacons, Father?
we need more deacons. And some-
I'm with you. I'm with
and
you.
deaconesses.
I wanted to say something because you touched on the ad hoc thing. And there are situations where I think ad hoc works very, very well. And I think we've encountered that in our Russia with Love operation. If you have shared goals that people are agreed on, it's a lot easier to do things sometimes on an ad hoc basis. And it's amazing what you can get done.
Well,
And this church has been a very good resource from that score, in fact, in helping us.
and I like that you're starting to like ad hoc management better. That's because you're dealing with Russians, I guess, right? So, and I like your point about having common goals. So, and as you said, that if you have common goals, then it's easier to have things that are ad hoc and not planned ahead. But to have those common goals, you need at least some systematic management.
Even,
So-
even our bishops have put into place some systematic management for us by giving us the normal parish bylaws, so that we have some format to follow in our parishes. So being organized is not an evil thing. If we only think about organization and lose our spiritual lives, that's obviously not good. But we would like to repeat the things that we do well and not repeat the things that we do poorly. So somehow we have to find that middle ground between becoming a cold, sort of efficient organization and something that is warm but completely disorganized. And there's probably a middle ground there.
Father, if I can make a comment, I think you guys are very good in some respects on feedback. Like you asked for feedback after you have a Russian festival, and I think that's another strength that you have.
Thank you, John.
And thank you for your comments, Father. And just to add, so for example, if your goal or even task is to clean, the church, as brothers and you do, so what exactly are we supposed to do? So systematic management helps you to specify those goals, because if they are not specific, they're kind of goals, but well, not really helping much at all.
Yeah, I have kind of two unrelated issues. One is about the balance that several people talk about, ad hoc and the organized version. I think the vote is by saying existential and more like ad hoc mode of management. And I was wondering if this is of 10 people, you probably don't need all the structural things, so you can go by common sense or this common goal that's understood. So what do you think with respect to our church getting bigger? Do you think?
I think because our parish is growing, then we need more of systematic management. Of course, if the parish is really small, or you can even think of a family. So if I tell my wife Sasha, to develop those instructions for everything that she's doing, then it doesn't make sense, right? But if it's many people, and our parish is large, so we do need. First, we have some rotating tasks. Different people do the same task, right? Like brothers and duties. So there are definitely some opportunities to apply that systematic management.
Is there any theory on like the size of the group that really requires that? I'm just curious.
Well,
in general.
there is one book written by a Protestant pastor, and he came up with some theory. How many staff members do you need if you have a certain size of a parish?
So what's the
The bigger the parish is, the more staff members you need. And of course, staff members, they are paid, right? So all of us are volunteers, and I understand that there is resistance, to accept those highly efficient ways to manage, because we have too much of that where we work, right? And we come here and we don't
chaos.
right, have some chaos might mean freedom, right? So it's voila, exactly.
I still have a second question, if I may. It's about kind of the chain of command thing. So maybe you have a different fancy name for this idea, but like if I see a problem in the kitchen, right, like something, puddle on the floor, so I could just wipe it off. But if I see systematic problems, I need to know who I talk to, right, to resolve that. I'm giving you a very simple example, but in any situation, when you serve in the altar, so is there something built in the system that would let you know that if you're dealing with this, who to go to address this issue, so that we don't go to Father Gregory every time we trip?
Well, it's a good point. We always need our parishioners' feedback, and we don't call those feedback complaints, but it's good feedback. It's good to hear from you, and of course, if everyone goes to Father Gregory, it's not how things should be working, and I think in this situation you might go to Leta, but Leta, would you be okay if someone sees that there is a problem with, say, cleaning or kitchen? Then are you the right person to ask about that issue? So it's the issue of.
There's always, you can ask them.
She put Sister Natasha right on the top.
Cleaning the kitchen. My question was that if I see something in the parking lot, right, or somebody else, our guest, sees a problem, how do they know?
Where's the chart? Where's the
chart? So, that was my idea. So if you have some kind of organizational chart, then it's just, it will make our activities more transparent. And in terms of chain of command, yes, you can know where, who do you need to talk about that particular issue. So. And especially, I think Russian festival is even more important. It's a high priority, because if something happens during the Russian festival and you don't know who is in charge of that, then that can create lots of problems.
Vadim, quick.
Okay,
John, very quickly, before it goes any further, I want to throw in this very quick disclaimer, forgive me, dear sister. The altar at St. Vladimir Orthodox Church is a well-oiled machine. I did not want any wrong impressions.
So what I want to say is actually to this specific point.
Right.
Just a few years ago, well before I became the head sister, now formally head sister, I remember the time when our church was small enough that if we had 30 people on a Sunday service, it was amazing. It was a crowd, pretty much. So at that point, did we need an organizational chart? It probably wouldn't have hurt, because then maybe Father Gregory wouldn't have had to clean the toilets himself. Which many Saturday I came in and this is how I found our priest in the church, cleaning toilets and stocking the toilet paper, and I think he still does that.
That's community, that's okay.
Back then, the church wasn't, big as it is now. So the need for an organizational chart, middle management, probably wasn't as apparent as it is now. We are growing, thank God. Lord is sending wonderful people to this parish. We're not going to talk about the priest.
Despite the priest.
Well, I think this is the need, this is the reason why we're having this conversation right now, because we are at the moment when this needs to be done. And we need to develop this because, for instance, again, when I was taking over as a head sister, I found these wonderful instructions from the previous head sister who left an instruction on how to start a coffee machine. It's a wonderful thing. So I can come up and read it if no one is there to help me. So these things are needed, absolutely. The job, not description, job. What did you call it?
Job analysis.
Job analysis. It needs to be done. I've never heard of it theoretically before, but it makes sense totally. So those people who are in charge of certain things voluntarily, please write those things down. As many steps as you can, and maybe it would make sense to even make a book, for brotherhood jobs. There's a list of things in the men's restroom how to do brotherhood duties. We don't have that in the sisterhood. We are totally ad hoc so far. And I think we do need that kind of a more detailed organization. And right now the head sister is the person who deals with anything that is, remotely related to cleaning or cooking. And it's overwhelming for the head sister. Let me just tell you that. It would help to have, 2, 3 more people who would be specifically in charge of certain things. Organizational chart is needed. Job analysis descriptions are needed. And it would make life so much easier for everyone. I don't think we're in danger of becoming, super efficient.
Or God forbid.
Like we know some organizations, Russia would love to get.
Are very structured.
Yes, so we have to weeks. But I would like to thank you, Vadim, for doing this wonderful thing for us and bringing it.
What's his idea?
Well, we need it. We do need it, and we need people's support. And it's especially difficult to run an organization like ours because it runs on volunteers. When you have people who are paid, you just give them the job analysis description and they do it.
If they don't, they are fired, right?
Right. Here, like in the sisterhood, I can create a list of sisters on duty, but will they show up? Will they cook? What needs to be done? It's up to them. And for me to go and chase every single person every week, that's a lot of work. For Leta to do it, it's a lot of work. So it takes all of us, each single person in the parish, to do a little bit. But if we have a good organizational chart in place and we have those job analysis descriptions in place, that would be very, very good. And for us to grow, we need that. So thank you, Vadim and Father Gregory, for showing us the need for it.
Thank you, Jana.
Do you want to volunteer to start that?
I was curious to ask somebody, here who's an outsider in one sense and an insider in another sense. How familiar does this sound to the things that you guys in Russia encounter? Your dad's a priest and your mom runs a school, right?
Do you have any organization?
So since the recorder doesn't, or the video doesn't know who John is talking to, he's talking to Lisa Kiselyova.
I put her on the spot.
Yeah, it's a total different culture there. It's a totally
No, but
different.
it is interesting because over time we have been interacting with the facilities there. I think there'll be much more, and it just would be interesting in some sense.
She's not in that position to.
All right.
I think that the parishes in Russia are run significantly differently than they're run here. I don't think, for instance, there's no parish council at your father's parish, right? Yeah, so there's no parish council, and there's just really a completely different way to. Yes, that's right. They're free of the oppression.
They're free of that burden.
Yes, exactly.
They're not democracy.
Brother Vadim, my question, so we have the instructions written down for this and for that, and that is great. But until we have a person show up to follow those instructions, there's kind of a problem. What are your thoughts about motivating, about delegating, about sort of by hook or by crook making sure that there are как Stalin сказал, кадры решают все, that the right people are there, or at least somebody to do the
Well, and that's the issue of volunteer management, and we're all volunteers, right? So, and that's an important one. I haven't addressed it here, but if you look at volunteer management literature, it's basically the same as management in general. You still need some, job analysis, you need organizational charts, and need all those things. But of course, with volunteers, you should be using intrinsic motivation and those kinds of incentives instead of more.
Can you talk a little bit about intrinsic motivation? Maybe it's kind of a hard word. What is intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation?
Well, it's some jobs that are challenging for you, and if you do that, then you feel happy. So, for example, I'm sure in the choir, many people who join the choir, they might not know that they will be good singers, but once they start doing that, they learn that it's something that they enjoy doing. And I'm sure cleaning toilet is a different thing, but still there are many opportunities to use that kind of, as I said, intrinsic motivation or something.
Is that inner feeling that you're doing
It's
something good?
inner feeling that you are doing something well, and you are contributing, so we can show ways in which what people are doing are actually changing our parish, and maybe giving them recognition. So
you can support intrinsic motivation.
you
right?
can support
build it,
intrinsic motivation, of course, but,
feed it.
and having a newsletter, just giving people some recognition for what they are doing. So there are ways. I haven't talked about that, but it's
How about
it's a good
that stand or that wall in the Soviet Union, Люди or Stena Chesty or whatever, with pictures?
I don't know. Well,
Another
different culture.
Oh, okay.
Another question from
Yeah.
part of the family.
Is feedback, if you want, people to participate more and stuff, right? The feedback that you give as,
Manager.
management, whatever, does it have to be always positive, or it can be a little bit, we could have, do this, but where were you? I don't feel like that's maybe.
There are some.
Because you're dealing with volunteers, it's not, right?
So the rules for giving feedback are the same for negative and positive feedback, and And I can explain that maybe briefly. So instead of, focusing on the person, so if you are given the negative feedback, you can say, okay, you're late again because it happens to you all the time, and it's because of your laziness. So you sort of generalize to the person, but instead you can, according to the science of management, you should be talking about yourself, kind of. You should say, okay, it made me concerned or unhappy when you showed up late 10 minutes, so be specific, because that prevented us from doing this and this. So in this way you sort of focus on yourself, but at the same time you point at specific things that person wasn't doing as agreed, and the effect of that on not on you but on the organization.
You make it about the task, not the personality.
Yes, exactly.
And can it be something like, what can I do to help you do a better job, or what can I do to, I want you to succeed. What can I do to help you, come a little bit earlier?
Well, it's again the job analysis instruction that help, because if you say do your job better, what does it mean? You have to be very specific.
Yeah.
What better means. So, but something like that would work. And there are many things in the management science I haven't talked about. So most of what you've heard today you already know. So I'm sure that you've seen job description, you've seen organizational charts, but it's just a matter of what is applicable in our parish and what needs to be done.